So what I'm going to do is pop to the left monitor. And this is the spreadsheet. This line item is for yesterday's on-stream game that I did not play, or that I did not enter yet, but this is the one we just did. And then I'm sorting it. After I enter stuff, I'm sorting it so that the most recent stuff is at the top. This is just my results, but what we're really here for is this. So we want to play as much limited as we can for as few dollars as we can manage. And to me, that means looking at what our gem per game cost is, really. In a sense, a best of 3 is, on average, 2.5 times the entertainment value. A best of 3 match, one best of 3 match is 2.5 times the entertainment value of a best of 1 match if what you're in it for are games of limited magic, right? So if you break it down that way, which is what I've done here, and your win rate is 50%, your this is sealed, but let's go to the 2 types of draft. Ranked draft, so best of 1, is going to cost you 70 gems per game as a 50-50 player. And this is all, mind you, before taking into account gold grind or gem grind, and before taking into account any kind of value you ascribe to the cards that you win and the wild cards that you get. So this is purely about gem for gem. If you look at somebody like Frank Karsten, who has done articles on this topic as well, he includes a calculation where he estimates the value of a booster in gold, and I don't do that because it's too much of a variable for me to want to tell you what untradeable, only usable for one thing assets on your account are worth to you. But we know gems cost money and they get us into events. So looking at just gems and the cost in, reward out is a good place to look at this stuff. So we have 70.23 gems per game in ranked draft. In traditional draft, it's 85.21 gems per game cost, okay? So it's a little bit higher. So your gems per game is better here. Your final cost, your straight up final cost, is also cheaper in gems in ranked because it's costing you. And this is so if you're in it for the event, if the thing that you think is special is the start to finish experience of an event, then you want to look at your final cost in gems, which are these 2 numbers, and you're much better off in ranked draft. Where this goes askew is that you do have to take into account that at 50-50 is a nice place to look at the average or whatever, but you are not, let's say in a given game of Magic, I am 60%. It does not mean that if I'm 60% in a game, then ranked draft matches, which are best of 1, are going to be 60% for me. But if I'm 60% in games and I go to traditional draft, I should also win more here because I have to win the match, which means I have to take my 60% game advantage through 3 times and try to get a match win, and that's going to happen more than 60% of the time. I'd need a better math. I need to do some calculating to understand exactly how different. But you can take a look and say like. At 50-50, it's, 50-50 is good. Let's look at my 60%, which is about where I'm at. At 60%, the cost is much closer, and, but if I'm 60% in games, that means I'm 38.12 gems per game cost here, but my matches are going to be higher. So let's say that in best of 3, then actually let's say this. Let's say because I am at about 60%, and we can even go look. But let's say I'm 57 at best of 1. If I was 57% at best of 1, it's costing me 47.35. But if that makes me like 63% at best of 3, and I'm guessing here, this is estimate math, then I'm 34.41 in traditional. So that's a big deal, and that's an important part that I haven't quite figured out yet, like what the correct adjustment is. It's not 5763. And we can go look. I'm not playing any more Magic, so if this is interesting to you, stick around. If not, I understand that you've taken off, but if you like this kind of nitty-gritty, let's keep looking. So yeah, that 57 is 47. Let's say it's tighter than that. Let's say it's like 58%, in which case I'm 44.23 versus 62, and I'm down here 37. So you can see that even though, if you're truly 50-50, then these numbers are both accurate against each other. But the more skilled you become, I think the more advantage you get by playing traditional draft, where you get to take your game advantage into a best 2 out of 3 situation. And if we want to see roughly how I'm doing, I don't know if filtering, I don't know if this will work. I'm decent at Excel type stuff, but I'm not amazing. So let's see, let's filter, let's filter this, and then we're going to we'll ignore this. We'll ignore the special stuff and just look at ranked. We'll look at ranked and unranked because those are both best of 3, which is the main thing. So let's look at best of 3. And I wonder. See, I don't know how to get. This is still calculating my win percentage. If I do this, I'll just brute force it here. We're gonna make an extra sheet, paste it in, and then we only have this here. And now we see, okay, so that I'm 59.13 in best of 1. So I'll take note of that number, 59.13. And these are not also necessarily statistically relevant numbers, but they're the numbers we've got, so let's check them out. And then we're going to look at, no, not this, stakes is what we want. We want to look at traditional. And then we're going to copy this to a new sheet. And see that I'm 61.59 in traditional. So now let's, out of curiosity, even though this is not enough data for these to be super statistically relevant, I'm curious where this puts us. Let's plug it in. 59.13 on ranked is 40.75 gems per game. And wait, I want to make sure I write that down. I forget numbers quickly. 40.75. 40.75 BO1. And then 61.59. We get 39.45. How about that? Crazy. So my current my current skill level puts the 2 formats for me at almost a dead heat. That's really weird. That's just, I'm just happen to be, my win rate happens to be right at this balance point in the economy. And then there's the fact. So then if we go back and look at the event, I'm going to bring up chat for a second, see if there's any questions first of all. I've been doing this without chat up. Sorry for my silence, I'm just catching up on reading. So best of 3, your playing probability of your game, yeah. Yeah, Sarah Tommy, that's, you basically are getting what I'm saying. Yeah, that you're better than 60% if you're 60% in each game, you're going to be better than 60% to win a match that's best 2 out of 3. And Hex Star Dragon brings up a point I was going to mention, but I didn't want to cloud the core element, the core thought to take away. But Hex Star says there's also sideboarding, which is a different skill, which is to say that just because I'm 60% in best of 1 queues doesn't mean that game 2 and game 3 I'm also 60%. If I'm a terrible sideboarder, I might be worse. If I'm a good sideboarder, I might be better. But for the purposes of what we're exploring here, we can, I think, disregard that noise. We're already working with statistics that aren't, high of relevant quantity anyway. Our best of 3 games, a whole match. No, my language is games, which is a game of Magic, right? And then a match is the thing that has to happen to tick a victory thing on your end screen, whatever that is. So in best of 1, that's a 1-game match, and in best of 3, it's a best 2 out of 3 match in which you play 2 or 3 games, right? And you always play 1 game in a best of 1 match, and you play 2 or 3 games in a best of 3 match. In traditional matches, you need at least 66% win rate to win the match. No. Yeah, Law Monarch, that's not quite how the math works there. Let's say that I'm 66% to if you're 33% to win in best of 3. Well, here's how the hypergeometric or whatever, how you do the math. It's like you're actually 33% to win the first one, and then from there you're 33% to win. You just work, and you're 66% to lose. If you lose, you need to win the next 2, so you have a 1 and 3 to get towards that, and then you need a 1 and 3 again to accomplish that. And on the win path, you are, you can just see that it works out. Even if you have a very low win percentage in a single game, you still have a chance to win any given best of 3. It's just reduced. Oh, cool. Yeah, I do want to. I want to look up that. I'm not going to do it now. I'll take a note of that for off stream though, and that'll be cool. Oh, it doesn't tell you, just tells you your overall win percentage. Yeah. If it's not going to differentiate, it doesn't help, because I also do a lot of throwaway, grindy type stuff where I'm scooping on purpose, and anyway, scooping early, super early. Hex Star Dragon brings up another point we haven't touched on yet. With the matchmaking, would your win percentage be higher in your first game in Limited than the game when you're, say, 2-0? Yes. Yeah. And again, though, I think, though, that it's all, since there's all these places you're finding, all the places where if you wanted to come up with a much better simulator, you're identifying the areas where you would have to refine your algorithms and refine how you were measuring expected win percentage of a given player and that kind of thing. Mainly, though, as long as our formulas are correct, we can be a little bit off in terms of our win rate, or have data that's a little bit underwhelming in terms of how statistically relevant it is, but it still shows us some interesting things. Like, to me, this is interesting to see. I had no idea. Well, you actually see, I had some idea. Like, I initially put it at, I was going to say 55-65, but that felt too much. I started at 57-63. That felt like too much, and I brought it into 58-62. For me, and then it turned out to be 59-61.5, basically. So I think that's pretty interesting, even if there's a lot of noise around this data. Grid Life, if you think this sheet is impressive, you should work with like Lee Sharp and Michael Gans. Man, this is a classic game designer level spreadsheet in terms of this is like every game designer you meet will have at least the level of proficiency with spreadsheets that I'm showing you, because spreadsheets are so vital to doing the job. But when it comes to how deep these things can go, I'm an inch deep when it could go a mile down. Yeah, it's maybe it is large. I don't know, but I'm no statistician. I always assume I have my sample size isn't large enough. And that, but yeah, it's there's a lot of factors going on. So you've got matchmaking that might be messing with your win percentages. You've got sideboarding skill that might be messing with your win percentages. You've got the differences in how they matchmake in the two different queues. There's definitely, there's how you're going to do what you expect to do in a 0-0 situation versus 4-2 type situation. So, hey Dionysus, we haven't reviewed the spreadsheet in a while, and viewer Siratami was asking about how to decide what queue to join, and so I was showing the how to use the spreadsheet to do that. And if you want to do what I was doing with your own estimated win percentages, you can copy this sheet, save a copy, make a copy of it, and then you can adjust these numbers yourself. I leave them at 50% so that it shows the average case when people come here to look at it, but it's read-only unless you're me. So if you want to mess with this yourself, that's what you're going to want to do. But the cool thing, Dionysus, that we hadn't done before that we did here was actually split up my results from the best of 3 results, in which I was 61.59, and the best of 1 results where I was 59.13, plugged those into the gem EV calculation, and found that as a 59.13% best of 1 player, I pay 40.75 gems per game, and in best of 3, I play 39.45 gems per game, and this is very beatable. Like, this is my cost right now, and this is not taking into account the gems earned through turning gold into gems, which is a huge factor, and it's not taking into account the stuff that we did today in terms of gem grinding and tacking on extra gem value for wild cards and for rare drafting. And so between the tools of rare drafting, wild cards, juggling multiple accounts, keeping 3 accounts with some level of gold and gems going through gold grinding, I really think I can be infinite in the traditional thinking, or close. I think we're going to be right up against the edge here, but this is the rake we have to beat right now. At my skill level, this is their rake from if there were no rewards beyond gem prizes at the end of the event. And so it's my task to turn the other stuff they're giving us in the system into effectively 40 gems per game. And if I can do that, I should be able to play as much as I realistically can and want to play for no dollars. Going back to catching up with chat, and then I'll probably bid farewell. Lamonarch says, so with a 55% win rate, best of 3 is better. Well, again, though, we see that it's impossible that nobody's going to have a 55% win rate at both best of 3 and best of 1. So let's say, let's just use this. Again, we're just roughing it out here, but this is about a 1.5 type gap, around it. So if you're suggesting that you're on average 55, then you're talking about like 54.75 for best of 1, which is 54.52 up against let's see, we're 55. Is this right? Am I doing this right? And then, oh no, I don't want a 54.25. Sorry, 54.25. 54.25 is, sorry, 56. So 56 gems per game. And then when we adjust this to 55.75, down here, we get 61. So it looks like at about 55%, you're still slightly better off on a gems per game count of playing ranked. But I think you can also see that in all these cases, it's super, super close. So the big takeaway is you don't really have to sweat it too much between these two, as long as you're thinking in terms of gems per game as the metric that you care about, and that you don't value the cards as much. But it is worth noting that if you're drafting enough so that you can start doing the gem grinding that we did today. Like today, I think you put it in down here. Through using our wild cards to create 4 ofs of mythics we were about to draft, we got 140 extra gems from playing today. Nice net there. And that's not taken into account in these numbers at all. So we're not looking at how wild cards can be converted into gems through the new system. And it's important to note that traditional draft rewards more boosters than ranked draft. Ranked draft, if we go back to the game itself, if we look at here, you get 2 packs for 7 wins, 1 pack for each of these wins, and then there's like there's some chance that you get an extra pack, I think. Because I know I've gotten a reward for like 2 wins or whatever, and sometimes it's had 2 boosters. So I think there's a chance you get an extra booster. But basically, there's not a ton of boosters associated with these prizes. Whereas traditional draft, it scales up. So you're getting 2 boosters, 3 boosters, 4 boosters, 5 boosters, 6 boosters. And if you're going to eventually get a complete set, then these boosters, each of them starts to represent additional gem prizes. Like at minimum, if you've got a 4X, the 6 boosters is 120 gems. So you can think of the prize here as being 2220 instead of 2100 once you have 4X of everything. You act like I read words or something, man. I leave that to you guys. I still don't even see it. Anyway. Yeah, I worked on this game a long time ago. Oh, in best of 1, sure. I don't even need to see. I trust you that it's there. But the point is, as you become a heavier player, and this is where my model is not super sophisticated, and you've got to do some of your own mental adjustments to bring it into a rough landing. But at least what I'm providing you with is an ability to look at the straight gems in, gems out expectation from just cost to enter and hard gem prizes being offered. And then you can start to add in things like how valuable the boosters are, whether you're going to be playing enough to start mining gems through duplicates and wild cards, how much you care about constructed, all of that stuff. But this gives you a good baseline to see where you're starting from.